Alright guys, welcome back, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to add a video player to your app. So if you ever want to make an app where the user can play videos, then this is how you do it. However, before we begin, I want to warn you of one thing. Whenever you develop this project and you run it in the emulator is unable to play videos at this moment. I don't know if they're developing a system where they can display videos in the future, but right now the emulator that you make in Android Studio can't display videos. So to test this out, you're probably going to need to run it on an actual device. And if you don't know how to set up an actual device for testing, then I'll make a video in like 10 tutorials probably showing you guys how to do that. But for right now, I just want to warn you guys that if you try to follow along with this and then you run it in the emulator, it's just going to show up as a little black box and you're not going to see anything moving. So nonetheless, this is how you add videos to your app. So start a new Android Studio project, and I'm just going to name mine Video Player, and make sure that you select API 15 because the packages that we're going to be using, this is the minimum SDK that's going to be compatible, and then click Next and just choose blank activity, Next. Good enough. Alright, so once everything is done, finished being set up, we have our design file and of course the main activity. So the first thing I want to do is mention this. You see how we have this text view by default? We're going to delete this in a little bit, but take note of where it is. So we position this within our relative layout, but we still have this bit of padding around the left hand side and the top. Now this is because if you go in your source code view, actually, let me clean up my properties a little bit so you guys can see what's going on a little bit easier. So by default, this relative layout was given to us by 16 dps of padding around the edge. Now whenever I plop that video player in there, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that in just a bit, I want it to butt up against the side of the screen. I don't want it to look like it's floating in the middle. So what we can do is we can actually select all of this padding from the relative layout and just delete it. And now if you go back to your design view, you can see that the widgets are now butted right up against the edge. Pretty cool. So of course we don't need this text view, so we can just select that and delete it. Now what we do need in order to play videos is one widget. So if you scroll down to containers, right here you're going to see this widget called Video View. So take this widget and drag it right on your relative layout and just release. So by default it takes up the entire screen. Good enough. Now the only other thing we have to do for the design is select that video view, and we need to give it an ID. So I'm just gonna name this what can I name it, like Lucky's Video View. Hit enter, and now we can reference it through our code. Alright, so hop over to main activity, because this is all the interface is going to be. Probably the easiest GUI we ever designed. So again, hop over here, and the first thing I want to do is delete these last two methods. These are just for the menu, and I don't really need those. I just want to keep this tutorial very simple, very basic. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to import two things. So import Android.widget, of course, the video view, and we already saw what that was. And the next thing I want to import is this, Android.widget.media controller. Now by default, this video view is going to be capable of displaying just pure videos. Now this media controller is pretty much the video player like you would think of it. And by that I mean all of the buttons like the play button, the pause button, the stop button. So if we just want to display a video to play automatically, then we can just use this video view. But if we want to allow the user the ability to play it, stop it, pause it, whatever, then we use this media controller. It's like video controller. So simple enough. So now let me go ahead and do this. So in your onCreate, the first thing we want to do is we want to get a reference to that video view, that area that can display videos. So final video view, Bucky's video view, and of course just set this equal to video view right there, Bucky's video view. So simple enough. Now after this, now that we have a reference to it, in order to say, okay, this is the video that I want to display in this area, we actually need a video. So what I did is I uploaded a real quick sample video. All I did is I actually just recorded my screen, and I went in MS Paint and made a real quick smiley face in this video. I just moved my mouse around and it looks like this little face is talking. So probably the dumbest video ever, but I wanted a real small MP4 file just for testing. So if you guys want the same one, of course you can find any MP4 file on the internet and it'll work. But if you guys want this one, then again, thenewboston.com/forum/project_files/006_testvideo.mp4. Alright, so how do we set the video player to play this video? Well, just take that view and call a method called setVideoPath. Now inside here, you just throw in that string. Pretty simple. So now we said, okay, this video view is going to display this video. And in order to actually play it, you actually call just one last method, and that's videoView.start. So now, if we actually run this, I'll show you guys. Again, remember I said that your emulator isn't going to be capable of displaying the videos, so if you actually want to see, you're going to run it on an actual device. But we can go ahead and run it right now to make sure we don't have any bugs or errors. Alright, now one other thing I forgot is you need to add a permission to your manifest. So, and that's just say that, hey, we want to use the internet, and that's just because we are referencing a file on the internet instead of locally on our device. So again, go to your manifest and add this, and once you run it, you are going to see, let me close out of this, you are going to see this. Now typically this black box is where the video would play, and actually whenever you run this program in your emulator, you are going to be able to hear it. You just aren't going to be able to see the video. So your challenge for this tutorial is type in the comment below what this dude is saying, because if you can hear it, then everything's working fine. And also, I want to mention, by default, whenever you take this and flip it horizontally so it's orientated in a different direction, the video is automatically going to stretch to fill up your entire screen. So that's another cool feature about it. So now that that's taken care of, and also I highly recommend doing this on a device, it's going to make a lot more sense. But anyways, now that our video is working, I want to show you guys how to add that optional media controller. And even though it's optional, you probably want to do this like 99% of the time, unless you have, you know, a really important reason not to. Well, I'll just say player controls like play, pause, stop, etc. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is you need to get a reference to this media controller class, or the object. So media controller, I just named mine media controller, you set it equal to new media controller object. Now we're going to pass in this for context. So now the only thing we have to do is we take that media controller object and we're going to call a method called setAnchorView, and for the anchor we need to pass in whatever your view is named right here. So now one last line of code, you actually take this, and I know it's kind of weird, but this is just how it's done, and for the view you set the media controller, which means, okay, I want to set a video player on this to media controller. You think that they could just do this in one line of code, but that isn't how it's done. So again, 3 simple lines, pretty much get an object which is the video player and set the video's view to that video player. Alright guys, so even though you can't see it, I just ran it on a device and it works fine. And another thing I probably should mention, if you hold down the left control key, you know how you have 2 control keys on your keyboard? One's on the very left bottom corner and one's kind of to the right of your spacebar. If you hold down the left control key and hit F12, it's gonna rotate your emulator. So I thought that it might show if I rotated it, but again, typically whenever you have a video, your video's gonna be right here, And of course, all of your player controls are going to be right here at the bottom. Pause, rewind, forward, all of that good stuff. So again, there you have it. I know you can't see it, but trust me, it's there. If you can hear it, it is working correctly. So for now, thank you guys for watching. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to use your camera to take images and save them on your device. Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and in this tutorial, what I want to do is I want to show you guys how to access the camera, and we're just going to be building a simple app for this demonstration, and it's going to have a button right down here, and whenever you click it, it's going to launch your camera, and then whenever you take a picture of something, it's going to display right there. So pretty sweet. And before we begin, I want to mention that I did start a brand new project. And also make sure that you're using API 18 or higher, because there's one little package that we're going to use to make sure that your device has a camera, and it will still work if you're using like one of the older APIs, but it'll give you this weird warning message. So in order just to avoid it, let's go ahead and switch to API 18 or anything higher. You can even use Lollipop and it'll be fine. So in your main, or excuse me, your activity main, not main activity, it's kind of confusing. Main activity, activity main, tomato, tomato, whatever, whatever. Alright, so let's go ahead and get rid of this text view first. Now the first thing that we need is that button. So go ahead and grab this button and drag it somewhere, not in the middle, somewhere on the bottom, like that. Now let me give myself a little more room to work. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give this an ID, and how about Bucky's button? And why is my computer making weird noises? Huh. Sounds like my cooling thing. Hopefully I can, if you guys can hear that, I apologize. It's really annoying. Alright. So anyways, getting kind of sidetracked here. And we'll just change the text on this to take photo, so the user actually knows what's going to happen whenever they click it. Now of course, just so this can actually do something, we'll add a method on click and we'll say launch camera. So that's essentially what this is going to do. Whenever you click it, it's going to launch the camera app and allow the user to take a picture. Now after they take the picture, we want to display it right up top here. So what we need in order to display it is an image view. So if you go down under widgets and add image view, you can drag it anywhere. Right around here is good for now. One second, my computer is being really loud. Alright, so apparently it's my cooling system's making stupid noises. It does that like once a week. It just starts making really dumb noises. So yeah, hopefully I can edit out that sound, but I have to deal with it right now. Alright, so you see how this image view is 0, 0. It pretty much has no size right now. That's because there isn't an image in it, and our layout is set to wrap content. So it's pretty much going to wrap around. Whenever we stick an image in there, it's pretty much going to fit whatever the content is, aka the image. But for right now, just so we have something to, I don't know, look at, let's go down and add minimum height, and we'll say like 300 dp, and we'll give it a minimum width of 300 dp too. Alright, so now what I want to do is move that up a little bit. So if I go way up, I can go layout margin and change the margin top to like 50 dp. See if that works. Alright, looks good enough. So the other thing that we need to do, the one last thing, is this. We need to give this an ID. So if you go to ID, image view will work, but I'd rather name it Bucky's image view. Alright, so now we got an area that can display image. Now we have a button that whenever we click it, it calls launch camera. So before we hop over and start coding this, let's go ahead and in the manifest we need to set up one permission, and that's of course the permission to add the camera. So if you go uses feature Android name, and the name of this is Android hardware.camera. Not camera 2, just camera. And another thing is Android required, set this equal to true. So now we pretty much are saying, okay, we want to use the camera on the user's device whenever they install this app. So that's all we have to do in the manifest. So close out of this, and hop into your main activity.java, and we can start coding this thing. And I am back. I just had to put my computer to sleep and then wake it up real quick, because for some stupid reason, whenever it starts making noise, if you put it to sleep and then wake it up, it stops. So I probably need a new computer, but whatever. Alright, so all of my imports that I'm going to use are right here. So pause the video, take a second to copy those, and after you do that, we can actually get rid of these, the last two menu methods. Won't be needing those. Now the first thing I want to do is just set up some variables, and the first one is static final int request. Did I spell everything correctly? Hopefully, and set this to 1. So what this constant is it's basically a way to identify your intent. And if you have a bunch of different intents, then you can set an identifier along with each one. But the only intent that we have is we intend to open up the camera and eventually take a picture. So again, this isn't really important. You can just pass in 1 if you want, but it's proper just to set it to a constant. So the next thing is I need a reference to image view right here, since we're going to be using it in a few methods. And I'll just name it Bucky's image view because that was the name in activity main. So now on create, as soon as we create this, what do we want to do? Well, the first thing we need is a reference to that button. Now we're only going to be using it in this method, so I'm just going to create the entire thing right here. Now of course you already know how to do all this. Find view by ID, r.id.bucky's button. And we also need to do the same thing for that image view. So set this equal to image view, which is of course that area where we could display the image. Find view by ID, r.id.bucky's image view. Alright, so that was the easy stuff. Now the first thing we need to do is, before we can take a picture, we want to check if the user actually has a camera. Because if we're trying to call a bunch of intents dealing with the camera in their device, maybe it's a really old one, or just maybe not a high-end one and they don't have a camera, it's going to cause some problems. So I'm going to say disable the button if the user has no camera or something. Not the sewer, user. So again, we're going to check for a camera, and if they don't have one, then we're just going to disable this button. So they can't click it and launch the camera, obviously. So later on, I'm going to make a function called hasCamera, but for right now, I'm just going to call hasCamera, and it's just going to be a boolean. So it's either going to return true if they have a camera, or false if they don't, and we actually don't even need these. And that's why it's giving me this error, because I didn't create it yet, but I will in just a sec. And to disable that button, what I can do is I can call Bucky's button set enabled equal to false. Now it's true by default, so that's why you don't have to turn it on or anything like that. So now let's go ahead and make that hasCamera method right here. So again, all this is going to do is check if the user has a camera. And remember, it's just going to return true or false, true or false, true or false. Mommy, mash my M&Ms. Okay, got my tongue exercises taken care of. So again, it's not going to take any parameters, don't need any extra information. But actually, I don't need to write a comment. It's only one line of code. So all this is going to do is it's going to return this. Get package manager. I'll explain this in a second. Has system feature, and in here I'm going to write package manager feature camera any. There you are. Alright. So again, this package manager and all of this right here is pretty much saying, okay, if your device, on your device, we're going to check if it has a feature. What feature do you want to check for? We just want to check for any camera. Now there are different types of cameras that you can check for. You can check for only a front facing one, only a back facing one, but this is going to say, okay, as long as the user has any camera on their device, then we're going to return true. And as long as you return true, that button's still going to be enabled. If they don't have any camera on their device, then it's going to disable the button. So that's all that does right there. Now another thing I want to do is, remember, whenever we click this button, it calls, where's that button? On click, it calls a method called launch camera. So now we need to build that method right here, and this is going to be responsible for launching the camera. Alright, so public void launch camera. Now inside here we need to pass through our views, and let me give myself a little bit more space to work. Alright, so in order to launch the camera, what you need to do is you need to make a camera launching intent, and we can just name it intent and set it equal to new intent, and this means we intend to do something. And to launch the camera, it's media store dot action image capture. So this is the intent to actually capture an image, in other words, launch your camera. So after we take an image, what we want to do is we want to take a picture and pass results, and by results I mean the image information itself, whatever you took an image of. We're going to pass the results along to something called on activity result, and I'll talk to you guys through that in a second. Alright, hold on, might as well just finish typing this. Alright, so again, this is what we intend to do. Take a picture, and this right here, it pretty much kicks off that intent. So as soon as you start this activity, it's going to launch your camera. Now the reason we said start activity for result is because we want some information back after this is done happening. What information do we want back? Well, just information about the image that we took. So then we can do something like save it, print it out, add some cool photo filter to it, whatever we want to do, but we need essentially that image. So we'll say I don't know, if you, alright, so if you ever want to do something, if you ever want to return, same thing, I don't know. So just go ahead and hit Alt Insert, and we're going to override this method, and it is called on activity result. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Okay. Alright, so this, tighten this up a little bit. So this on activity result is a method that's going to be called automatically after this method right here, start activity for result. So start activity for result, like I said, is we intend to capture an image. After we do, send the results along to on activity for result. So this is pretty much going to take the data and, well, just do whatever we say we want it to do. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to just make sure that we indeed did take an image, and also that we didn't have any errors or anything like that, and we can check those with these two variables right here. And just a real quick if statement, so you can say if request code is equal to request image capture, and result code is equal to result OK. So again, like I just said, this request code pretty much ensures that you took an image, and result code, if it's result OK, it means that you didn't have any errors or anything like that. So if that's true, then that means that you did take an image. So now let's go ahead and get the data from it. So get the photo. Alright. So if you go to bundle extras and set this equal to data, which is this that got passed in, and that's the data of the photo. Now if you just call get extras, then what you can do from here is bitmap, and I'm just going to name the photo itself photo, or you can name it pic or anything like that. But what this is, what the heck did I just press? Alright. Okay, this is taking me off. So bitmap extras dot get data. So again, this is essentially returning the photo information and we're converting it to a bitmap, and we're just storing it in the variable photo. So now this photo is essentially a photo that you can use to stick right in here, and in order to do that, you just get your image view, which is that area that can display a photo, bitmap right here. Since we have a bitmap, we want to set image bitmap to photo. Alright, so this, let me make sure everything looks good. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. Now obviously if I run this in the emulator, it's not going to work because the emulator is on my computer and it doesn't have a camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this on my device, and I'll post some screenshots of it so you guys can see what's going on. Let me do this. Let me take a screenshot of the screen I'm looking at right now. You guys could probably hear me take a screenshot. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Now I'm going to tap the take photo button, and after I tap it, this pops up. So you guys are going to see a picture of my computer. Let me take another screenshot. Alright, so that's what I'm looking at right now. And now let me actually take the photo. Alright, so I just took a photo of my computer, and now I'm going to hit save. And after I do that, this is the final app. And you guys, well, you guys can't see it, but alright, never mind. I'm like trying to talk to myself here. Alright, so hopefully if you coded everything the same as me, then yours should work too. If you have any other bugs or issues or anything, then you can go to my forum, just copy the source code, and well, if you have any questions, you can ask them there as well. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright guys, so now that we know how to take pictures with the camera, what I want to do now is I want to show you guys how to apply photo filters or other cool effects to your photos. So by the end of these tutorials, you guys are, I don't want to say that you're going to know how to make like Instagram photo filters, because those take a lot of time and you need like a background in photography, but I'm going to show you guys the real basics of how to bring out your highlights or contrast and also apply some cool overlays. So the first thing I want you to do is this. I already uploaded 2 photos. This one right here is just my profile photo. If you want, you can just go get any 2 square photos, but if you want these ones that I'm going to be working with, go to my forum in this link and just right click and save as. And I saved this one as, what did I save it as? Bucky.jpg. In this one, that white one you saw, what we're going to be doing here is we're just going to be placing this on top. And I know it looks white right now, but this is actually clear, as you guys can see right here. So again, whenever we place this on top of this image, what's going to happen is it's going to give it a nice frame and give it that old vintage scratched up kind of looking effect. Again, this looks it looks kind of weird, and it just makes my image look dirty, but if you have like a background in photography, then I'm sure you guys can change that. So anyways, go ahead, right click both of these, save them as, so they're saved to your computer. So the first thing we have to do is add them to our project. So I started a brand new project, nothing new, blank activity, whatever, and we need to get those to our drawable folder right there. So if you go and cut these, just cut those and then open up Windows Explorer. Wherever you have your project, what you can do is you can navigate to your drawable folder by going to App, Source, Main, RES, which stands for Resources, and you can just stick them in your drawable. I'll stick them in a drawable HDPI and just paste those in there. So now we can actually close out of this, and if we look back in drawable, we see that we now have that Bucky.jpg, which is my face, and that dirty, which is pretty much some like a frame. Alright, so now what we have to do is we actually need an area on our app where we can display an image. So get rid of this text view right here, and there's going to be one single widget, really easy. Just going to drag, might as well just drag it right in the middle. Alright, now this is kind of annoying me that it's just a little pixel by default. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the minimum height. Right there, that was maximum. Alright, so I'm going to give it a minimum of 300 dp. And 300 dp. Alright, pretty good. So this is just so whenever you're developing your interface, you can kind of, it's a little easier to visualize than that one little pixel right there. And also the other thing that I need to do is I need to give this an ID, and I will give it an ID of Bucky's image view. Alright, so now we have an area where we can display a photo, and again what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be displaying my face, and one thing I'm going to do before I show you guys how to add that overlay to it to make it look vintage look is I'm just going to show you guys how to apply effects manually, and we're going to invert the image. Now if you don't know what invert the image is, this is like on every photo editing program, but it pretty much makes you look like you're going through an x-ray machine or something. So it was one of the easiest ones to implement. Alright, so hop over to main activity, and the first thing I'm going to do is clean this up. I also, as a side note, I changed my color of my comments to this kind of green, bluish, turquoise kind of color. It looked like gray, like a light gray was kind of hard to read in the video, so I like having my comments pop and stand out. So that's what I did. Alright, where was I? So what I want to do now before I begin is I want to import a bunch of stuff, and I already have them copied. So here you go. And again, if you want to, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this source code and I'm going to post it on that exact same forum topic that you guys download the images. So if you just want to copy all of these and paste them in, then please do that. It'll save you a bunch of time. So now the first thing I want to do is I want to get a reference to pretty much this image view and also these images right here. So let's go ahead and do the image view first. So image view, I think it was named Bucky's plural, well not plural, possessive image view. Alright, so I want to get a reference to my face, which was my profile photo. So I'll just say drawable Bucky's face, Bucky's fame. Really interesting photo. And what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be taking this right here, which is a JPEG, as you can see, and in order to work with it for Android, you need to convert it into a bitmap image. Now a bitmap allows you to work with the individual pixels. You can, JPEG and PNGs, they're good for just displaying like logos and graphics and buttons on the screen, but if you ever want to be able to manipulate the individual pixels, then you need to convert it to a bitmap. So again, this is the JPEG version, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to convert it to a bitmap image. Alright, so use myself a little bit more space here. Alright, so on create, the first thing I want to do is I want to take Bucky's image view and actually set that. What did it? Alright, image view, find view by ID, r.id. Alright, so this of course just is a reference to this, and you guys already know why we need that, so we can actually display something there. Now let me get a reference to this JPEG right here, and the way we do that is we gotta get the resources, and then since it's drawable, you gotta get the drawable, and what drawable that you want? How about this one named Bucky? Alright, so again, all we are doing right here is getting a reference to my face, and it is a drawable, so that's why it's giving me this error right there. Alright, so now the JPEG is stored in the variable Bucky's face, but remember I told you guys that you need to convert it to a bitmap in order to use it. So we already have a variable called bitmap image where we can store that information. So bitmap image. Now to convert a JPEG to a bitmap, then what you do is this. If you go to bitmap, where are you at? Bitmap drawable, Bucky's face, what this is going to do is it's going to take this and cast it into a bitmap drawable object, and then on this you need to call the method, did I just type hey? Get. Huh. Look at that, they are kind of similar on the keyboard. Anyways, get bitmap. So again, it's kind of a weird syntax right here, but this takes JPEG and converts it into a bitmap so we can work with the individual pixels. So now what I want to do is I want to add some photo filter to this bitmap. Now if I write all the code in here, then it's going to get messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store it in an entirely new variable called new photo, and this is going to be equal to invert image function that we're going to be creating later on. Now let me pass this in right here. Alright, so again, it's giving us an error because this is going to be the method that we create in the next tutorial that's going to take your image and convert it, or in other words, invert it, apply some cool effect to it. So I'm going to be passing in the original bitmap image, which is pretty much the image you saw of my face. We're going to be inverting it, and I'm going to store the new data in a variable called new photo. And what do we want to do with this new inverted photo? Well, of course, we just want to display it right here. So if you go to Bucky's image view, in order to set that content of the image view to a new photo, we'll say set image bitmap new inverted photo. So that looks pretty good for this tutorial. That is how you set everything up, and in the next tutorial we're actually going to be digging through them pixels, and I'm going to show you guys how to tweak them and create a cool inverted image effect. Alright Hosses, welcome back, and now that we got all the boring stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff, actually inverting that image. So the first thing I want to do is just add a comment, and I will say like invert bitmap image. Alright, so we named it invert image, and it's going to be public static, and also it's going to return bitmap data invert image. Now remember, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be passing in essentially my profile picture after it's converted to a bitmap, and it's going to build an entirely new image based on that, and it's going to return that new image. So that's why we return bitmap right there. And also for the parameter that it accepts is going to be a bitmap image, and I'll just name the original image original. Why not? So again, the first thing we need is pretty much a blank bitmap image, and this is eventually going to store the cool new inverted image. So bitmap, I'll just name it final image, and in order to create pretty much a blank canvas that you can create a new bitmap on, you set it equal to bitmap dot create bitmap, and the parameters that this takes is, first of all, you're creating a new bitmap, you need to tell me how big it's going to be, how wide and how tall. So we're just going to say, well, actually go to the original image and get the width of that, and also get the height of that, so the new image that we're creating is essentially going to be the same size as the original. Now the last parameter that this takes is just one that's original, called getConfig, and this is just background information because this create bitmap, it takes 3 parameters, and this is the third one. But later on, again, this is just a blank image right now. Just think of it like is a white square that's 230 by 230, and we're going to be building the new image directly on it. So how this program is going to work is this: we essentially have that blank white square that we just created in memory, and we have this original image. So what we want to do is we want to loop through every single row and every single column and look at the pixels one by one. Now every single pixel we look at, we're just going to be inverting, in other words, tweaking the value a little bit and sticking it on this new image. So we're going to be building this new bitmap piece by piece, pixel by pixel. So the first thing that I always say the first thing, it's like this is the second tutorial and I've done like 70 different things, but it's always the first thing. It's kind of weird, but you know, hey, life is funny sometimes. Alright, so we need variables to store that information. So every pixel, as you know, it's made up of RGB, a red, a green, and a blue value, but we also need the alpha value, in other words the transparency. So we're just going to be storing them in variables A, RGB, alpha red, green, and blue. And also the individual pixel, we're going to look at a variable called pixel color. This is just to store one value. So like I said, we're going to be making a for loop. Where's my image? We're going to be making a for loop that loops through every single pixel, and in order to make this, you actually make a for loop within a for loop, so you can loop through the columns and the rows. So how many times does your for loop have to loop? Well, it depends on how big your image is. So if you make a variable called height, then we can just copy this right here. So for this image, since it's 230 by 230, it's going to say, okay, get height, which pretty much means how many pixels tall, and we're going to be storing it in that. And for this, of course, we already know that the width is right there. And this is just so we don't have to hard code the values 230 by 230, because if we ever throw an image in here that is a different size, then I want this program to be compatible with that as well. So now to loop through every pixel, int y equals 0, y is less than height, and y plus plus, and inside here, just going to be copying all this, and my counter variable is x, and of course instead of height we want width. So again, a loop within a loop, and all that's just going to do is be responsible for looping through every single pixel. Obviously simple stuff. So now what I want to do is I want to grab the first, well, a single pixel. Whatever pixel you are currently on, just grab that pixel. So if I go to pixel color, then what I can do is I can go to the original dot get pixel, and in here I can just pass in x and y. So again, the very first value of this, the very first pixel it's going to look at is 0, 0, the pixel in the very top left corner. So we are essentially looking at that pixel and storing it in a variable called pixel color. So now what we need to do is we need to break up that pixel into the individual values. So A, what we need to do is we need to set this equal to color dot alpha pixel color. So pretty much get the alpha value of this pixel. You know, it may be easier if I just explain it this way. So let's first get the individual information about each pixel. So red, and do this for each one. So this is just going to return how much red is in that individual pixel and store it in the variable red. And now I'm going to do this with all my other colors. Oh, no, no, no. And B. Alright, so this gets the green value of that pixel, and this gets the blue value of that pixel. Now, what we can do is, right now, all of these values are just the same as the original. However, we want to tweak them. We want to invert them. Now, for the alpha, that can stay the same because we aren't really worried about it from this tutorial. However, to get the inverse of it, the RGB, what we can do is take 255 and subtract the red value of the original photo. And we can actually do this for everyone. So paste it in here, paste it in here. So now I have new values for A, R, G, and B. The alpha is actually the same, but the R, G, and B is 255 minus the red value of the original, minus the green value, and the blue. So now what we can do is take these new values for every single channel and build that final image, that image that we were hoping to return. So for the final image, what we can do is actually we can call something called set pixels, and if we type X, I'll explain what this does in just a second. Color alpha red, green, and blue, A, Alright. That was a nice burp, by the way. Alright. And why is this giving me an error? It is because I set pixels instead of pixels. Alright. So again, what we're doing is we're looping through pixel by pixel. And then we're taking all the pixel information about that pixel, all of the values, and we are inverting them. And then we're saying, okay, for the final image, for that new image that you're building, take whatever pixel at this appropriate coordinate and set it equal to the new values. So again, pixel by pixel, row by row, we're going to convert this into a new inverted image. And that's it. The only thing we have to do now is return this. So let me make sure I put it in the right place. So return final image. So when this is done looping, you're going to have a brand new image. So now if I run this, alright, there, wow, this is creepier than I thought it would be. But that is how you invert an image, and in the next tutorial it's not going to be as creepy. You know, I'm just going to get rid of that right now. I don't want to look at that anymore. But in the next tutorial, what I'm going to show you guys how to do is use this filter and overlay on this image, so it'll be a lot less weird and scary. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Alright guys, so in this video, now that we know how to make really creepy inverted photo effects, what I want to do is of course show you guys how to overlay photos on top of each other. In other words, this is how you make frames. And if you ever saw like the vintage old beat up look at where you take a photo and you add like some cracks and scratches and dust speckles to it, that's what we're going to be doing. So there's actually a bunch of these overlays that you can just get online anywhere you want, but this is the one that I'm going to be using. So what I want to do is actually go down to this chunk of code right here, and this is all from the last couple tutorials, so I'm just going to comment this little chunk out. We don't need to do anything with this invert image because this is just a method, and if we don't call it, then it won't bother us. But what we're essentially going to be doing is this. We need to do something called layering objects, or layering, kind of think of it like stacking photos on top of each other. So if we had this photo, just think of it like you're holding it in your hand, set it on the table. Now if you had this photo, set this on top of it. That's essentially what we're going to be doing with our program. So in order to get these layers, or in order to use different layers, if we call drawable, what we can do is we can make an array of layerable objects. So I'm just going to name my array layers and set it equal to new drawable, and in here of course we need to say how big is your array. Well, we're only going to be stacking two things, or layering two things on top of each other, so 2. So now what we can do is we can go through and start building this layer by layer. So in your layers, the very first item is this. Of course, the first thing we want to stack is this. That's going to be the base of it. So if we go to get resources, on this we can call get drawable, and for the parameters r.drawable.bucky right there. So we already saw what this did. Again, it's just my face, my profile photo. That's the very first layer. Now we're going to be making another layer on top of that, so we can just copy that because we are lazy. And this one was named dirty. So this is dirty right here. So now we have 2 layers looking good. However, right now all of this only exists in memory. Nothing's appearing on the screen, nothing's showing up on your phone, anything like that. In order to take this object in memory and convert it into something your device can use, you need to turn it into a drawable object. So the class for this is right there, layer drawable, and I'll just name it layer drawable, and you set it equal to new layer drawable, and in here it's the easiest thing ever. You just throw in your layers. So this is going to take whatever your stack is, whatever layers of photo you have, and it's going to convert it into a drawable object so your device can display it. So now the only thing you have to do is you can just take your image view, which is that area where you can display an image, set image drawable, and in here we can just type right like that, the drawable layers. So now let me go ahead and run this. Alright guys, so here it is. I know it doesn't look that great. It looks like I have like a bunch of crap on my beard, or I don't know, just like a bunch of weird, it just looks it just looks like I'm dirty rather than a cool effect. But I don't have a background in photography or anything like that. I'm a computer programmer, so that is how you achieve the effect. Hopefully whenever you guys do this, you can make it look like you're not dirty. And also, since this is kind of a short tutorial, let me show you guys how to do one extra bonus thing. If you ever want to save an image on your device, I'm going to show you guys a real quick way to do it. There's actually some different methods, but uncomment the code. You can just comment all this out and uncomment this, so pretty much you're back at where you started at the beginning of this tutorial. And the line that you can use to actually save an image on the user's device is this. If you go to Media, Store, Images, .media, .insert image, then the first parameter is get content resolver. And after this, what you can do is, you know how in the last tutorial we returned this new photo, and this new photo was that creepy inverted image that looked like, I don't know, I was like from a scary movie or something. You can pass that in as your second parameter, and every photo that you store on your Android device on your phone, it needs a title and a description. So for right now I'm just going to write title, but later on you might like want to allow the user to type in a title through input, or just name it something like random. And of course I'll just put the word description for a description, but this would be something like me at the beach, or hey, this is me and my girlfriend, and this is private, so hopefully you're not reading this right now. So, something like that off the top of my head. So, by the way, this is not my girlfriend, for everyone who's asking. This is my sister. And, yeah, some people asked if she was my wife, and she's definitely not. So, that is how you do this. And of course, if I ran this right now, then we won't be able to see anything. But if you are running this on an actual device, and you run this bit of code right now, you can run it, and then if you close out of the app and look back in your gallery or your photos, whatever it's called, you're going to see that it indeed did save the image. It did save the image to your device. And again, all of the source code is going to be available on my forum, so if you want it, then go ahead and it's yours. But for now, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will smell you guys in the next video. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another video, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk to you guys about notifications, how to create them, when you use them, tomato. And this is actually my second time recording this video, because I just made one like 10 minutes ago, but I was editing it, getting it ready for YouTube, and I realized that I just spent like 4 minutes just telling you guys a story about my life, wasting time. So I was like, you know what, probably should make that again, focused on the notification Android stuff instead of me just rambling on about my life. So here I am, take 2. Alright, so what is a notification? You guys already know what it is. Let's say that, I don't know, someone likes your Facebook post. You're going to get a little icon, bloop, and then it says, whenever you slide down the status bar, alright, Bucky Roberts left a comment on your Facebook post, or whatever like that. It's pretty much just a little alert that lets you know that something is going on. And the cool thing about this is you can be completely out of your app. You can be on your home screen, maybe just checking the time, whatever, and you don't have to have your app open. It'll just make a little notification right there, and yeah. So you guys already know what that is, so that's what we're going to learn how to do. So the first thing we need to do is say, okay, just for this test app, when do we want to send notifications? Because typically you're going to have some service running in the background checking a database for like new comments or new likes or something. But for now, we're just going to make a button on the screen, and when you click it, it sends a notification, because it's pretty easy for this example. So delete this text view and drag a button on there. Oh, that one looks nice. And we'll just say click for notification. You can just say click if you want, it doesn't really matter. And the ID of this, I'll just write Bucky's button. So whenever we click this, what's going to happen is it's going to send that notification, and of course we need an on-click method. Where is, oh, in alphabetical order, probably could have guessed that. Bucky's button clicked. So again, this is the method we're going to be building later on that's going to send the notification to the system. So that's all the interface is going to be. Again, all of the hard work we're going to be doing in our code via that notification thingy. So the first thing I want to do is we can actually probably get rid of these. Don't need you guys for this tutorial. And clean all this stuff. And there they are right there. Alright. So, well, I'll explain what all of this does, or actually you probably will figure it out by the time I can even explain it. So those are all the imports. Pause the video, copy them down. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to build an object that's pretty much going to be the notification itself. And by the notification itself, I mean this thing right here. So the notification is kind of two parts. The first part is the little thing you see on your status bar, which has a little icon and a little message that says like Bucky Roberts liked your post. That little message is called the ticker. It's usually like one sentence long, maybe just a few words, just a little indicator that let you know, hey, you have a new notification. Then you slide down with your thumb or your finger or whatever, and then this, whenever I say the notification, I'm usually referring to this part. So I know it's like a two-part process, but whenever I say the notification itself, I'm usually referring to this main notification, which usually consists of an icon, which may be like the logo of your app. That's typically what it is. Or if it's like some social activity, it may be the person who either liked or commented or sent you an invite, whatever. And then you have this text right here. And aside from that, you have the time. So again, it's made up of a couple different things. An icon, text, which is actually a title, and the body of the text in the time. And I'll show you guys how to customize all of these, well, right now. So the first thing, of course, is an object, so we can actually start building that notification. So it's actually notification compat right there, and then you call builder on it. So this pretty much lets you build a new notification. Simple enough, and I'm just going to name mine notification because I'm that creative. Notification. There we go. Notification. Make sure you spell it right. Now another thing that you need is this. Let me type this out real quick. Private static final int, and I'll just name mine unique ID and set it equal to some random number for right now. How about I don't know, just throw your fingers on the keyboard. 45612. Why not? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving an ID number to each notification that we build. Alright, why do we need an ID number for the notification? Well, check this out. Typically, the user has a bunch of notifications, which means that your phone has to keep track of them all. So, to keep track of, for example, this one, new Google Plus notification, your system says, okay, whenever I click this, I need to go to the Google Plus app. Whenever I click, like this one, 3 new messages, I need to go to the Gmail app. And in order to organize all of your different notifications, we need to pass it along an ID number, because if we didn't have this, then your system would just view everything as a plain basic notification and it wouldn't know how to handle each one. So that's why you need an identity, or yeah, to identify each one. Whatever. Alright, so now let's go ahead and actually do something with this object. Set it equal to what it needs to be equal to, and that is equal to new notification compat. Probably should just copy this. Notification compat dot builder, And of course, what you pass in here is just this for context. Now under this, another thing that I want to do is, well, I'll explain it in just a second. If you call notification set auto cancel and then you pass in true, what does this mean? Why would you want to cancel your notification whenever you created this activity? Well, this method gets called whenever you open this screen right here. So why would you want to cancel, or in other words, delete your notification? Well, it's because of this. Let's say we were making this app for Google Plus and it said, okay, Earl Libbard added you back. Alright, so you click that because Earl, you guys are good buddies, you wanted some more information, and you got sent to your app. Well, you went to the app, and then that notification didn't disappear, it just stayed at the top of your screen. You're like, wait a minute, I just clicked it, and isn't that supposed to go away whenever I click it? Well, this set auto cancel means whenever you go to this screen, whatever notifications you have relating to this screen, you're just going to go ahead and delete them. So again, it's just I don't know, it's just kind of like standard program practice. Whenever you click a notification, it deletes from that top system status bar. So simple enough. So now what I want to do is, now that we got all the housekeeping stuff taken care of, is actually start building that notification, adding the icon, the title, all that good stuff. And in order to do that, remember we said whenever we click this button, it's going to call the method Bucky's button clicked. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next tutorial, actually learning how to customize our notifications. Alright, so now that we got all the background crap done with handling our notification, let's go ahead and actually start building it. In other words, giving it an icon, a title, some text, all that good stuff. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call public void Bucky's button clicked. And remember, this is the method that gets called whenever we click this button on the screen. We want to create a notification and send it out to the system. So the first thing, let me comment this, build the notification. And remember, a notification, I don't even know, I closed out my screen, but the first part is an icon, the second part is a text, and the third part is, it's either the time. A lot of these things are optional, but let's go ahead and learn how to do it right now. So anytime you want to add one of these attributes, you just call notification, which is your notification object, and we'll set small icon first. Now usually you want this to be like a picture or the logo of your app, but I was too lazy to drag any images in here, so I'm just going to use this one right here. This is just the default one that comes with every project that you make. It's just a little Android icon, and it's IC_launcher. Again, you would typically make this like the logo of your app, like I said, but whatever. So I'm just going to set this to r.id IC_launcher. And it's giving me error because it is not drawable. Alright. So another thing that I want to do is I'm going to set the ticker text. And the ticker text, remember, whenever you get a notification, let me minimize that. And let's say that you're just out of the app and you're just, I don't know, scrolling through, maybe you're checking the app store, maybe you're in another app, whatever. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to hear a little sound effect, and then it's going to give you this little icon right here and the little text that says you have a new notification, or Bucky liked your post, whatever. That little bit of text right on the status bar, that's called the ticker, so that's what I'm going to build now. It's real easy. Notification dot set ticker, and in here you just put some text like, I don't know, this is the ticker. I'll just write that so when we see it in the example, you guys will know what it is. Now another thing that you can do is you can set that time. So notification set when, because remember, your notification on that right side, you have the optional time, and that way when people are looking at the notifications, they can see when you like send them an invitation or when you commented on their post. Was it an hour ago? Was it 2 seconds ago? Whatever. So what we can actually just do here is take system, current time millis, and that's just going to get the current time and pass it in to your notification. It's like the easiest way. Now the other part is this. I'm going to add two more things. The notification set content title. Now remember that text that appeared on the notification kind of was like the text in email. It had two parts. The title, which was the main header, and the text, which was a little blurb of text under it. So just so you guys can see what's going on, I'll just write here is the title and notification set content text. This is the main body of it. And I'll just write like I am the body text of your notification, and make sure you spell that wrong. Actually, it's bothering me. Alright, so I am the whatever blah blah. No period. F the period. Alright. So now we have our notification built. In other words, it looks like something. It's the little alien icon, and then it says here's the title, I am the body text of your notification, and it gives the time in the upper right corner. So that's what it looks like, but now we have to say, okay, whenever the user clicks on this notification, what do we want to happen? Well, what we want to do, and this is just going to be real easy, is we're just going to send them back to our app's home screen. Now, if you have like a special notification section of your app, or it was some action that you wanted them to perform, then you can send them to that, but we only have one screen here, so it looks like they're going to that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make an intent. I'm just going to call it intent for right now, and set it equal to new intent. Now in this, you pass this for context, and then the name of the class where you want to send them, and it's just this one right here. So main activity dot class, just like before. Now we can't just send them to the intent with one more line of code, because remember, this intent and the way we learned how to do before, it was great whenever you just have a couple intents and they're already in your app. But remember, they can be in an entirely different part of your phone. They can be in another app, they can just be on the home screen looking at the time, they can be in the app store. So what we need to do is we need to give your device access to perform this intent. We need to give the phone the ability to access our app. So what we do is we call a pending intent. Now just name it pending intent, whatever, you can name it, I don't know, whatever you want, and set it equal to pending intent get activity singular. And alright, so the first parameter this takes is this 0, and then the third parameter is intent, which is essentially what we've been learning before, and the last one is pending intent dot flag update current. And I want to cover pending intents in detail later on, but for right now, just think of it that this line of code right here, it gives your phone or your device access to the intents in our app. And of course, all this does is it puts them on the home screen. Simple enough. So now, in order to pretty much set this intent, what we just do is notification set content intent right there, and in here we just write pending intent. Alright, pretty cool. Now there's two more lines of code that we need. So this of course takes care of whenever they click it, they're going to go to this home screen right here, and oh, funny thing, I just got a notification on my phone right now. Wow, that is ironic. The universe, man. It's a funny world sometimes. Alright, so now all we have to do is we need to essentially send out the notification. So I'll just make a little comment like Bill's notification and issues it. By the way, issuing a notification means sending it out to your device. So in order to do that, you actually use a notification manager, and I'll just name it like, I like NM better. Nice try. Alright, then typecast this to notification manager, and you call the method get system service. What service are we worried about? The notification service. So now we have a notification manager, pretty much some dude that can build and send out notifications. Just think of it like that. So how do we send it out? Well, we take that manager dude and he calls a method called notify, and it takes two parameters. The first one is the ID of your notification, because remember, he needs to manage them all, he needs to keep track of them all. The other one is the notification itself. So that's our notification. In other words, it's this icon, that ticker, that time, title, text, all that good stuff. And in order to put it all together, you just write build, and that's it. So again, this is just the object that can send out notifications. We're building it and sending it out to the system right here. This is where we say whenever they actually click it, take them to this screen. And right here, of course, we're just customizing it to our liking. And well, that's pretty much it. So now let me go ahead and run this. Alright, so let's click for notification. Boop, there it is. And you can also add a sound to it if you want. I'll show you guys how to add sounds later on. This is just a real quick tutorial. And of course, we drag it down. You can just click with your mouse and drag, and it'll simulate you dragging your finger. But this, of course, is that icon. This is the title. This is the body text. And this is the time, 12:16. And of course, whenever we go to it, we can just click it. No matter where we are, it takes us to whatever activity we specified in our intent. And take note that that icon or notification disappears. And it disappears because of this right here. If you didn't have this, then whenever you went back, for example, whenever you clicked on that notification, it would just stick up there, and it would be really annoying for the user. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you use notifications with Android. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start talking about styles and themes. So first of all, what is a style? Well, let's say that you had a bunch of, I don't know, maybe you had a bunch of these inputs where the user could type something into your app. And let me just change the size of this to like 300 dp. Alright, so you had one on the sign up page, and you had one, I don't know, maybe they could like leave a comment to their friend or something, and you wanted all of these little inputs, these plain text fields, to have a gray border and, I don't know, maybe like a tinted light blue background. So what you decided to do is add a bunch of these, and then, okay, gotta go to background, and where's border, gotta change, okay. That's gonna take like 1,000 days if you're gonna have to do that to every single one. So instead, what you can do is you can make something called a style. Now a style is kind of like a class in CSS. It's a reusable design. So you can make one style and then apply it to every single element that you want. And if you ever want to change it, I don't know, maybe you want to change the color of the border to red, then you can just change the style once and it changes on all of your widgets. So let me go ahead and delete that, and let's go ahead and learn how to make these babies right now. So right click on values, because this is where you put them, new values resource file, and I'm just going to name this something like ocean.xml, since this is going to be all my like cool blue ocean styling, and hit OK. So by default we're given this. Alright, this is just our XML stuff, and in resources is where we're going to stick everything. So the first thing I want to do, anytime you want to make a new style, oh let me adjust my seat a little bit, you add the element style just like that. Now the name of your style is just, what do you want to, let's say you're going to make a bunch of, you're going to apply the style to make your text blue. So I'm just going to name this style something like baby blue, and you have an option to add a parent, but we won't do that right now. Now what a parent is essentially something that you can inherit from. So I'll show you guys how to do this later on, but right now I really don't want to overwhelm you. The really basics of a style is anytime you want to make a reusable design, just include a style tag and give it a name. And then you can use this name whenever you want. So of course, if we're going to make a reusable design, we might as well add some, cool designs. So each attribute or property you add in the item tag. So the name, I'll just write Android. The first thing I want to do is just set the layout width, if I could find it. Layout width and height. Alright, so the property, of course, is in your tag, and in between you write the value. So wrap content. Let me just copy this and set layout height. So I'm going to be applying this style to a bunch of different text. Actually, let's drag a few more on there. Let's drag a large text right here and a large text down here. Alright. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to change the width and height just to wrap the content. And that's just for housekeeping stuff. Now let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. So I'm going to copy this one more time. And the property that I want to change is text color. So on all of these elements I want to set the text color to something like, actually here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this to EF, which is kind of like a light gray, and then I'm going to set the background of it because, I don't know, I just think that'll be really easy to see. So the background color is just background, and one of my favorite blues is 006699. So this is going to have a blue background with like a light gray font. So now we have a style. Whenever anything is baby blue, then it's essentially going to make that widget blue. So how do we apply this style to these widgets? Well, if you go in your activity or wherever the widget is, then let's go ahead and do it to this first one right now. And also what I would like to do is just select all of this and then hold down Control Alt L and then run this, and then this is just going to reformat everything. Again, that's Control Alt L, and it makes everything nice and neat. So the first thing that you can add is a property called style. So in your text view, and apparently I selected the second one, oh well, still work. Add a style attribute and set the property to @style baby blue. Now check it out. As soon as I apply a style to this widget right here, it changes it to blue as we specified in our XML style right there. Now I can apply this to every single one, this third one, and also the first one. And how awesome is that? Now the cool thing about this is if you ever wanted to go back and say, you know what, I actually want to change these all to have a red background. So instead of just going through, okay, let me select this background, then this one background, then that one background, all you have to do is go to your styles and then just change this to some color red and then pop back over. Pretty stinking awesome. But of course the name is baby blue, so I'm going to keep that blue for now and check it out. So now let me explain that inheritance thing I was talking about, because it's going to make a lot more sense now. So you guys already know what inheritance is. It's pretty much grabbing all of the stuff from somewhere else and using it in whatever you're creating. So it's just like Java, kind of. So let's go ahead in our oceans.xml and inherit from baby blue. Now, of course, whenever we inherit, what we need to do is we need to give it a new name, and the name is actually really important. The first part is if we just type baby blue right here that says inherit everything from baby blue, and then add a little period. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to give it kind of our own custom version of baby blue. So I'm going to name this one Big Blue, and that's how you inherit from any other style. So right now, even though that it looks like nothing is in here, essentially what we did is we copied all of this and we're pasting it in here. So now if we add something like item and set something like Android, I don't know, we'll just change the text size. So what we can do here is just change the text size to like something big, like 30 SP. Then again, anything that we apply the style baby blue, big blue, is not only going to get all the stuff from baby blue right here, but we also overrode the text size to make it 30 SP, and this just bumps up the text a little bit. So for this first one, right here, let me go ahead and change this to baby blue dot big blue and check out what happens. So again, it gets all the stuff from baby blue, but also the new crap from big blue as well. So that is inheritance. And the thing that may confuse you, so I just want to touch on this a little bit. Whenever you are inheriting from a style that you created yourself, you use the syntax of the style's name, dot separator, and then the new name. Now, if you look in styles right here, which is the default one, whenever they inherited from somewhere else, they had this parent attribute. So again, that's the only difference. If you want to inherit from something that you created, then you use the dot separator. But if you want to inherit something from Android, then you need the parent. So right now we are inheriting from the dark action bar, which pretty much just makes the action bar like dark gray and all that stuff. So if you guys ever get confused about like different inheritance, that is why. But now that you guys know the basics of styles, in the next tutorials what I want to do is I want to show you guys something called a theme. And a theme is how you can pretty much apply an overall style to your entire activity and not just individual widgets. Alright guys, so in the last tutorial what I did is I showed you guys how to use styles. Now a style was pretty much a reusable design that you could apply to individual widgets. Oh, tastes like SpaghettiOs. Anyways, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to use a theme. Now a theme is pretty much a style that you can apply to either an entire activity or your entire application. So if you just want to apply overall style to, again, this entire activity or every single activity in your entire app, I'll show you guys how to do that really easily. But the first thing I want to do is this. Just so we're pretty much starting from scratch and I don't confuse you guys, let's go ahead and delete all of these styles. So pretty much we're back to bare bones, just like that. And might as well just go ahead and delete everything in this ocean.xml. Alright, so now we're pretty much back to basics. We can go ahead and start learning how to use themes. So the first thing we need to do is actually create a theme. Now I know that this is named ocean.xml, but say that we were making, I don't know, maybe we were making an app for some like environmental company and they wanted every single background on every single activity to be green. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the first thing that we need is a color resource. So color, and the name of this is, I'll just name it like Bucky's BG color. Good enough. Now a cool green I like is 009900. So now we have a color that we can use in our theme. And by the way, I typically like to name things like background color or text color because if you're ever making an app and if you just name this something like green and then your boss is like, you know what, let's change the background to red, well then it's going to say green everywhere and it's kind of silly. So instead, if you have something like Bucky's BG color, you can change this to any one you want and it'll make sense. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's better not to like name your colors green or blue or yellow or anything like that. So another thing is this. In order to make that overall theme, it's really similar to a style. So you make a style, you give it a name like Bucky's theme, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to inherit from Android, and I'll just choose like theme light. Now the reason I want to do this is because remember, this gives us a bunch of default styling that's already on our device. And the reason that I want to do that is because right now we're only changing the background color and I don't feel like styling every single widget individually, so that's why I'm going to say, okay, we're just going to grab all this crap by default, just use that theme, and we're just going to override whatever we need to. So it makes it really easy, especially whenever I'm trying to teach it. So of course anytime we want to change a style, we just use the item name and to access the background color of your activity, it's actually Android window background. So now from here we just throw in a color, and that is at color Bucky's BG color. So again, any activity or any app that has Bucky's theme is going to have a green background. So now let's go ahead, now that we created a theme, let's learn how to apply it. So in order to apply an overall theme, what you need to do is you need to hop up to Android Manifest. Now if you look in your manifest, this is where pretty much your entire app is managed. And by default, it already has a theme right here. Now if we just change Bucky's theme instead of the default app theme, then what this is going to do is it's going to apply that green background to every single activity, every single screen in your app. If we only wanted to apply that green background to an individual activity, then we would stick it in here within your activity. So that's the difference. Whenever you apply a property in here, it just changes one screen. Whenever you apply it right here, it's going to change every single activity or every single screen within your app. Now let me just fix this because it's annoying me. Control Alt L, enter. Alright. Now if you hop back over to activity main, I really thought that would change because, okay, let me make sure. We created the theme, everything looks good. In the manifest, yep, it says that this project is indeed using Bucky's theme, so what the heck? Well, the reason that it isn't displaying as your little preview because whenever you're just using this little design tool, what you can do is you can actually select your themes just to see how it looks on different devices. But in order to see how it would really look on a device, then what you do is go to App Theme and go to Manifest Themes. And again, we only have Bucky's theme right there, but if you select OK, then this is of course what it's actually going to look like. Of course, you can choose other ones to say, I wonder how it would look if I used Hollow Light. And I don't know, I wonder how it would look if I use Material Dark. So you know, this is just for testing out, but what your app's really going to look like is whatever the manifest is telling it to look like. So there you go, and check it out. So again, to recap one more time, anytime you want to use a theme, just go ahead and create your theme in an XML file, specify where you want to use that theme in your manifest, and make sure in your little design tool that you actually are saying, okay, use the manifest theme instead of anything else that I want to test out. So there you go. There's the real basics of it. Thank you guys for watching, and well, I'm probably going to go eat some macaroni and cheese or something, so I'll see you guys later. Alright, hosses, welcome back, and in this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to use shared preferences. And what shared preferences are is pretty much the easiest way to store user data, or pretty much to save any small type of data on your application. And another thing that people use it a lot for is if you have any app that's like customizable, or you just want to save some settings, like I don't know, maybe you allow the user to like change the background color of their app, or maybe there's like a setting to bump up the font size to make it easier to read. Any of those settings can really easily be saved using these things called shared preferences. So just to demonstrate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really simple form, and you can just make any thing that the user can type in and have a button called save. But just so this example actually resembles an app in real life, I'm going to have one text field right here and another one right under it. So we'll say that this is like a login screen. So the first text view will just say username, and this one will be like, I don't know, password. So I'm just going to write them in plain text so you guys can see. So obviously, you know, not the most secure tutorial in the world, but you know, this is just a demo. So these are just text field little indicators telling the user what you want them to do. Just give myself a little bit more space. Get rid of that too. Alright, so now let's get some of these plain text. I'm just stick it right there. Let me change this to like, how's 250 dp look? Too big. 180 dp? Holy jamoles. 180 dp? Let's go 200. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to 200 DP. Alright. Actually, let me just put that right there, and another one right here. So again, what's going to happen in this demo is the user is going to type in some information right here, and we'll have a button called Save, and then we can go shut off our phone, go to the gym, we can go look at other apps, come back here, and all of that information is going to be saved. Pretty stinking cool. So the first thing I should probably do is give these an ID. So the ID of where they type their username, I'll just write user name input. And for this one where they type their password, I'll just write password input. So now I'm going to add two buttons to here real quick. And the first one is going to be, I'll just add some text on it called, what can I put, like, save info. Let me add another button. Alright, so whenever they click this button, what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever they typed in here and it's going to save it to that shared preferences file. Now whenever they click this button, I'll just write display, actually I would name it display info or something like that. And let me add on clicks to here real quick. Alright, so this one might as well just write like save info. And for button 2, whenever we click this, it'll call a method called display data. Alright, so again, whenever we click this, it's going to display this info just to show you guys that it is indeed being saved. So it would probably be a good idea to have some place to display it. How about right there? Stick it right in the middle. Alright, so this one we just need an ID so we can say where we're printing it out. And the ID of this, I'll just say like Bucky's text. So one more time, what we're going to do to demonstrate what shared preferences are is you can actually have any type of data. You can have like check marks. You can get a true and false value from like any of these widgets right here. But I'm just going to save some string data through username and password. So they're going to type it in, hit save info, and we're going to like close out of the app, do whatever, come back, hit display info, and it's going to show you guys that it indeed was saved for them. So now what I want to do is get rid of this stuff because we don't need it, and I'm also going to get rid of that because it's bugging me. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is just get a reference to all of our widgets, and that is edit text, which were those inputs, and I name mine user name input, and I named the other one password input, and that text view right here was, what was that? Bucky's text. Text view, Bucky's text. Alright, so now that we started creating them, let's actually set a reference to them. Username input equals edit text, find view by ID, r.id dot username input. Alright, so this one was password input, and of course that's r.id dot password input. And last but not least, we have Bucky's text, and that was just that little text view. And this is just going to be find by ID r.id dot Bucky's text. Alright, so that's all the boring crap. That's what we already knew how to do. So now let me give myself a little bit more space. And alright, so we have two methods that we need to create. The very first method is going to be called whenever we click this button, and we gave it the on click of save info. So whenever they click this, it's going to take whatever they typed in and save it to that shared preferences file. So I'm just going to write save the, I don't know, like users info. I'll put the users login info. Alright, so that's public pass in reviews. Alright. And if you highlight that and just hit Alt Enter, then that was red because we didn't import it. And another thing is, most of the time whenever you just type those things out, they automatically import. But if they ever turn red, then a cool little tip is you can just click it and hit Alt Enter and it'll import for you, so you don't have to, like, I don't know, it'll save you like 2 seconds of typing, but still, you know, save yourself some time. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to allow shared preferences to be used in our app, and of course there's a special class called shared preferences right there, and this allows us access to create and edit shared preferences files. It's a little more complex than this, but the first thing we need to do, might as well just, let me name it shared pref. I really don't like object names the same as the classes, because I don't know, if I ever want to create like multiple ones, it gets kind of messy. But anyways, what we're going to do right now is saying, okay, we want to use shared preferences in our app, and also we need to add another setting to say we only want this application, the app that we're making right now, to be able to access this file that has the user's info in it. Since again, this is their name and their password, so we want to keep this data secure. So in order to do that, you write get shared preferences, and the first parameter is the name of your preferences file. So in this app, we're just going to save the login information. But let's say, I don't know, maybe we're making another app that we want to save their like notification settings. Well, we're going to make another shared preferences file for that, so you can have multiple shared preferences files. You're not just limited to one. So for this one, I'm just going to name user info, and the second parameter is just a privacy setting. If we write context and then we just write mode private, what this means is that this file is private. In other words, only this application can access it. And there are types of shared preferences that you can share between different applications, but for this one, it's going to be private since it's login information. So now that we pretty much have access to use shared preferences, what we want to do now is we want to create an object that allows us to edit this file, to either add shared preferences or well, we're going to be reading them later whenever we display it. But if we go to shared preferences and then we call editor, and I'll just name my object editor, what this does is it gives us an object that we can pretty much write to this file. So shared pref dot edit is what you set this equal to, and now we can start adding stuff to this file. So how do we do that? We take our editor and we call a method called put string. So every thing in your shared preferences file is going to come in the form of a key value pair. So it's kind of like a really simple database that only has 2 columns. So the first one we're just going to call username, and it's essentially just putting a variable in your file. So we're going to say, okay, make a key in here called username, and for the value we're just going to get whatever value was typed in here. So of course, if we go to username input right there, which was that text field, and you write get text, and then we just write to string. What this is going to do is it's going to take whatever text they typed in here, convert it to a string, and set it equal to the value of username. So right now, this isn't actual code, but it's just really easy to see what's going on. Your file is pretty much going to be like this: username equals, I don't know, like Bucky Roberts. So again, obviously this isn't real code or anything. I'm just going to show you guys what's going on behind the scenes. So therefore, later on, whenever we say, okay, go to this file, user info, and print out username, it's going to say, okay, username equals Bucky Roberts, so it's going to print out Bucky Roberts. So again, this is like a really simplified version of what's going on. But now we have to do the same thing for the password field. So if we actually just copy this, we're going to use that editor to put another string in, and this string, we'll just name it password, and this one is just password input to string. So now we got 2 different variables essentially in our shared preferences file. So in order to actually submit this or have the editor actually write it, you have to write editor.apply. I know it's kind of unnecessary. Well, it's not unnecessary. It kind of looks like an extra step, but hey, that's what Android makes you do. So now, just so the user has a little indicator of what's going on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a toast, and I'm going to make text, and I'll just say this for context. What can I write? Like saved. Alright. So whenever they actually click this button, you know, I want them to know that something happened. You did it correctly. So they click it, and it just says saved, a nice little pop-up on the screen for them. So then they aren't like guessing. And how long do we want this to last? How about length long? And of course, whenever you have a toast, you need to show it, which pretty much makes it display on the screen. So this is the only code that we have to write to save the user's login info. So whenever they click the button, it's going to get that text and save it to this file. So now, the only thing that we have to do, and actually if we run the app, then it'll run fine. We won't have any bugs or anything, hopefully, unless I mess something up. But whenever they click this display info button, nothing is going to happen because we need to create that method right now. So all this method is going to do is print out the saved data, and let me run my emulator. Forgot to kick that off. Actually, I'm afraid that if I run it, sometimes when I'm recording these tutorials, I'll start the little emulator, and then in the middle of my tutorial, you see how like you can see where my mouse is moving around? It'll just get stuck on the emulator. So I'm like, okay, and it's really hard to follow, and it ticks me off, and I feel like drop kicking my computer. So I'm not going to start that emulator, and I just rambled on about something stupid for like 5 minutes. Whatever. Alright. Public void display. Is that what I named it? On click, where you at? Okay, display data. Alright. So in here, we just want to pass through our views. Now, how do we display the data from a shared preferences file? Well, the first thing we need to do is, this is really easy, we just copy this, and this, of course, just says, okay, we have an app, and it's using shared preferences, and what shared preferences file that do you want to use? How about this one? It's the only one we got, so we'll just reference that one right there. So now, what we need to do is, we can actually just make variables. It'll probably be a little bit easier. So if you call your shared preferences, which is pretty much just a reference to the file, and you call a method called getString, what you do here is you pass in what string you want. So in this file we have two strings, username and password. So we're saying, okay, get the username, and for the second parameter we don't write anything. Since it's going to return whatever value is in there, we don't want to pass in anything right now. So I know this is kind of weird syntax too, but essentially what this is going to return whenever you call this method is whatever my username is, Bucky Roberts, let's say. So now we can print this out later on, but first we copy this and do it for password. So make another temporary variable called pw, and this is of course equal to password. So again, make sure that the keys that you're putting in are equal to the keys that you're retrieving. And this second parameter, just to clarify so I don't leave you guys hanging, if you ever have a key that you access like tuna and it doesn't exist, this second parameter is what it returns if the key doesn't exist at all. So by default it's just going to return nothing, and there you go. So that's what that is. If you guys were wondering why you need a second one when you're not writing any information, that's what it is. So now that we have two variables, what we can just do is we can take Bucky's text, which was this area down here, and set it equal to whatever text was in that file. So Bucky's text, set text, and the first thing is name, and let me just add like a space in between. PW. Alright, so it'll print out the name and the password. So now let me pause this and actually run my emulator. Alright, so hopefully this works. Let me type in like Bucky Sucky. I meant to type Schmucky, but you know, Bucky Sucky. Oh, whatever. That's the dumbest. Alright. Just type pass123 for that. So now I'm going to hit save info, and we get a little toast that says saved. And of course, if we even delete these, we delete that and that, so we can see that it's definitely not pulling from there anymore. And I'm going to hit display info. Then what it's going to do is it's going to read from that file that was saved in the background, that shared preferences file, and it's going to print out Bucky Sucky, which is apparently my new username, and pass12. So there you go. And of course, if you ever wanna, I don't know, like change your username to the New Boston, coolest username ever, in your pass to like cheese 30, you can save that. So it takes it, saves it to a file again, overwrites it, and display it, and check it out. So pretty cool. That is the basics of how you use shared preferences. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright guys, welcome back, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to create a custom launcher icon for your app. Now by default we're just giving this Andy, the Android looking icon, pretty boring. So what we usually want to do is we want to make a custom icon that's, I don't know, some kind of cool shape or our company's logo, whatever. The one that I'm going to use just for demonstration is this right here. I just made it in Photoshop, like 2 seconds. And whenever you're making it, make sure that it's 512 by 512, that's the size, and also make sure that it's a ping. Don't use JPEG or GIF or anything like that. 512 by 512 ping, and you can make it transparent. It doesn't have to be a big solid square like this. You can have some transparency. And if you look at like the phone icon, these default icons, you can see that they have some see-through aspect to them. So yeah, once you have that, hop over to this URL right here. So this is the Android Asset Studio, and if you don't feel like typing this in, then you can just go to Google and type in Android Asset Studio. It's going to be the first one that pops up. And this is a really cool tool that anytime you want to make like any graphics or icons that your app needs, I recommend this. It probably has anything you're looking for. What we want to do is we want to create a launcher icon. So click launcher icons and look at this. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to upload our image. Now if you're like, alright, why can't I just take this image that I created in Photoshop or whatever and just add it to my Android project? Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys could probably already guess this, but since Android devices are different resolutions, they need different size icons to display. So instead of just creating all of these sizes manually, which would take forever, what we can do here is just select image and double click our 512 by 512 ping, and as you can see, it's going to create all of the different sizes that we need, and we don't have to worry about what sizes they are. We don't have to, worry about naming them. This tool does it all. It's awesome. Now, of course, we do have a couple options here. Usually you don't really want to change anything, but if you ever want to say, okay, instead of these rounded corners, you can select none, and that gives you a nice square. You can also choose like bevel, circle, gives you a perfect circle icon, whatever. Again, these are pretty much just our all personal preference, so don't really need to talk about it in this tutorial. But one thing I am going to recommend is after you select whatever your default shape you want to choose generate web icon too. So this is going to give you a higher resolution optional icon, and later on when I talk to you guys about distributing apps, I'm going to show you guys why you actually want this, but for right now, just make sure it generates that as well. And now you can click download zip. So what this is going to do is it's going to pretty much create all of these icons at different sizes, and it's going to give you them in a nice little downloadable folder. So double click that and check this out. So this earlier one is when I was recording 5 minutes ago, and I learned that my microphone was on mute, so I can just go ahead and delete that. But once you have those downloaded, the first thing you want to do is extract them all, since it is in a zip folder now, and now check them out. So again, in all of the subfolders, it gives you a nice little different size. For example, in the HDPI, this size is 72 by 72. In the XHDPI, this size is 96 by 96, whatever. But now we need to figure out, okay, these are just in my downloads folder. I want to actually add them to the project. So let me do this. Let me move this on the right hand side, and just through Windows Explorer, navigate to your Android project. So mine is in test, and again, that's just this one that I'm testing out right now. And if you go to app, source, main, res, you can see, okay, these are where I need to stick all my different size graphics. Now another thing I want to point out is that make sure that you don't name these anything different. You see how they're named IC Launcher by default? That's the default name that Android says, okay, whenever I'm looking for a launcher icon, I'm looking for the graphic name IC Launcher. So again, if you name them something different, then you're going to have to change some settings in the manifest. So just keep the same name. I just want to, warn you guys. So from here, all you have to do is say go HDPI, HDPI, drag that, and override it. Go back, M. Now another thing I want to point out, people say that you can actually just copy all of these and paste them directly into your app directory. However, when I do that, it doesn't work out. It gives me some errors, so that's why I like to manually just drag all of these in. Move and replace, and do this for every single one. Now another thing I want to point out a bunch of stuff here. You see that by default your Android project, it only has H, M, X, and XX. However, whenever you downloaded it, it gave you this XXX folder as well. So what you can do is you can actually take this entire thing and just drag it over here, and then it'll give you another size icon that you didn't have before. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We can now close out of here, and if we rebuild this project, let me pause it and rebuild it. So check it out. We now have a custom launcher icon. Pretty sweet. So yeah, that's how you create it. That's how you use Android Asset Studios. And now you're going to have a custom launcher icon on every single device. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and well, I'll see you later.